Norm Hughes is first.
There's some music playing, like Step Nine and Fairy. Sounds like a Bruce Springsteen song. We're gonna get blocked. Come listen.
There's no video.
There's something running. Maybe it's running on another screen. Let me look.
This is the sound of two black holes colliding and merging. Where did this sound come from? A long time ago, in the distant reaches of the universe, two black holes, each about 30 times as massive as our sun, were locked in orbit and spiraling in towards each other. The only visible traces of this spinning cataclysm would have been the way their gravitational fields warped the light of distant stars. Even as they collided and merged, there wasn't a flicker of light to be seen. The real and very violent action in this system was in the form of gravitational waves, ripples in the very fabric of space and time. These waves were constantly draining energy from the black hole orbits, leading to their ultimate collision and merger to form a single black hole. At that instant, the power of the gravitational waves was 50 times greater than that of all the stars in the universe combined. That pulse of gravitational waves, lasting only a fraction of a second, expanded through the universe, passing unimpeded through countless galaxies. About 1.3 billion years later, it reached Earth. Gravitational waves alternately stretch and squeeze space itself and everything they pass through, but the effect is minuscule. Their effect on Earth here has been vastly exaggerated to help visualize something that is otherwise invisible on this scale. To detect them and directly measure their properties, scientists built LIGO, the most sensitive measuring device ever made. LIGO uses a device known as an interferometer to measure the tiny displacements in space. In this simplified representation, a laser beam is sent towards a partially reflecting mirror and split along two paths. The beams travel along the 4-kilometer arms and reflect back towards the central mirror, which recombines them, directing their light to a detector. As the gravitational waves pass, the distance between the central beam splitter and the end mirror stretches along one arm and compresses along the other. This changes the time it takes the light to travel along the arms. The recombined light waves shift with respect to one another and produce a signal at the detector. Incredibly tiny stretching and squeezing of space can actually be measured directly in this way. How little does space distort to make this signal? Let's zoom into a hydrogen atom until we reach the proton at its core. LIGO is so sensitive it can measure changes in distance as tiny as 1,000th the diameter of a proton. And this tiny measurement, made by LIGO, was the final step in a journey that began 1.3 billion years ago in the distant universe when two black holes collided.
Well, hello, everybody. It's Scott Roberts from Explore Scientific and the Explore Alliance, and I'm here with Kent Marts. Let me bring Kent on with me. And wasn't that a cool video about LIGO and the way that that thing works and how sensitive this instrument is, and the fact that we can build something that sensitive, that precision, you know, to measure the squeezing of energy, you know, down to, and measure it down to 1,000th of the diameter of a proton. I mean, my goodness, that's unbelievable. You're muted, Kent.
Imagine what we'll have in 50 years.
Oh,
Or-
yeah. This
I mean,
is
imagine
this
what
is
the
just
young
the beginning,
people-
right? So
Yeah. You know, the young, you know, in 50 years, the 10-year-olds are going to be going, gee, man, that thing was such an antique, that LIGO thing. And I can't
Yeah.
believe they even got it, you know,
I can't believe
discovered
it even
anything
worked.
with it.
Yeah, right. So, yeah, but they have brilliant people working on it. And it's being run by brilliant people as well. So it's just, you know, but you know, I'm perfectly in the camp of money well spent, tax dollars well spent, you know, and, you know, if any of our tax dollars went that way, and I'm sure they did. So, you know, it just helps us to figure out more about, you know, the origin of everything that is. So it's just really cool.
The story about where we came from.
That's right. That's right. What better to spend tax dollars on, except maybe making bridges better and stuff. But one of the things I use, Mike Wiesner is watching the show here. We've got our many of our regular group is watching and chatting right now. We have Norm Hughes and Andrew Corkill, Mike Wiesner, George Cather from Leavenworth, Kansas. Yeah, you're just right up the road from us,
Yeah.
right? Christopher is it Hughes? Hughes. Yeah, and he says greetings from Wichita, Kansas. So we got the Kansas crowd going on here.
He's even closer. They're about the same distance. Wichita's 5 hours.
Is it? Yeah.
And where was the other one?
Let's see, Leavenworth.
Yeah, so they're about the same distance. Yeah.
Is that where all the gold is? Is that Leavenworth?
No, that's Fort Knox.
Oh, that's right. Oh, wow.
Whichever one of them gets
in
here,
Leavenworth. So
whichever one of them gets here first, it's a race. I'll give them a red flashlight.
Give them a red flashlight. That's right.
I'll give you a red flashlight.
So Matthew McAlilly's watching, and we've got Mike Overacker and Space Time with Robert. Space Time with Robert. You haven't been on in a long time, dude. Nice to see you. Jim's Astro's there too. So, but the LIGO interferometer is just down in Louisiana, and they do offer tours of that place. So I was thinking maybe at one point or another, Explorer Alliance would take a special tour of LIGO, which would be really cool to do. So if you guys have interest in that, let us know. But aside from that and the video, we will talk about what's on our program today. And Kent Marts is going to talk about, how to form an astronomy group, whether it's a club or a group of friends or, something, something formal even. He's been involved in many such things, but for a long time in something called the Sugar Creek Astronomical Society. And currently, Kent, I think you're still president. Is that right?
For a few more hours.
A few more hours. And then who do you plan to pin it on after that?
We've got one person in mind who was bribed into saying yes. No, he stepped up and said he could do it. So
that's cool.
Yeah.
That's cool. All right. Well, good.
Yeah, it's our annual Christmas holiday party is this weekend, Saturday, and we've got 45 or 50 people coming. Paul and Kathy told me, so there's going to be a good crowd.
Yeah.
And
I'll be giving a talk, I guess. So
you'll be giving a talk. I'll be the master of ceremonies, and it's a 2-year term for our club. So I've been doing it for 2 years. We'll have a slate of candidates. The members will elect, and they get the fun of doing it 2 years. And I'm on the board for 2 more years as the immediate past president. So
I see. That's how it works.
It's basically a rolling, for those people who want to be on it and do it, it becomes a rolling thing. And one thing, our club is not incorporated. We are truly just a loose affiliation of people.
Like a group of friends.
A group of friends. We have, some bylaws that we try and follow, but it's nothing legal. We've talked about trying to get a nonprofit status, and go that route, but it's basically just a group of friends getting together. And, we didn't have bylaws for a long time. Well, we had them, but we just didn't ever read them. So I've tried to have the board read the bylaws at the first meeting in January, with a board meeting to go over the bylaws. So we sort of think about what we're doing. But again, there's no tax issues. There's nothing like that. We just have to, run things. And it can, people have really, I think, COVID Zoom meetings, there was a lot of people that, you got into Zoom meetings, but it's just not the same thing. And so we're going to continue to broadcast our monthly meetings, not the Christmas party, but the monthly meetings on Zoom. But, people have expressed a real excitement of being able to get back together and see each other again. So we're going to start doing that. But, keeping a club running, takes a commitment from a couple of people. Kathy Anderson, one of the founders of the club, along with her husband, Paul Anderson, Scott, you know them very well. Paul's a master observer. Kathy's working on her master observer award from the Astronomical League. Paul was master observer number 50. I don't know how many there are now, but there's a lot more. But she serves as what I call cruise director. She's the party coordinator, and we're working on a couple people to take over that role because Kathy's trying to slow down a little bit. She's retired and Paul's been retired. Then it's just a matter of president, vice president, a couple of board members, secretary, and managing the newsletter and things like that. So, Scott, you're muted. You're never muted, Scott. How'd you do that? Uh-oh. His microphone's gone on the fritz. Nope. So anyway, let's go ahead. I'll talk about how do you form a club, because it's getting to be Christmas. Scott, you just nod and give thumbs up, and maybe write a note on a piece of paper and hold it up or something. How do you start a club? A club starts with one person who is motivated to try and develop a loose affiliation of members, and it can be as formal or as informal as you want it to be. There's clubs. The Kansas City Astronomical Society owns land and has a couple of observatories out in a fairly rural site. It's starting to suffer from light pollution like everybody else. In the eastern half of the United States. Nope, nothing, Scott. So that becomes what you want it to be, but start out just finding people. Social media, most towns have a living in Springdale, Arkansas, or neighborhoods of Wichita or whatever. Find those social media pages, basically talk about Facebook, and put out there that you want to, hey, is anybody out here do astronomy? If you've got a telescope that you got for Christmas and want to learn how to use it, I'm going to be down at Centennial Park on Saturday. Bring your telescope and during the day, and I'll help you set it up and we'll figure out how to use it. That's one way to find people. Just going downtown and showing people Jupiter right now is a spectacular way. Saturn's off to the east. You got to get it pretty quick. Doing lunar when it's in the first quarter or just a little bit past first quarter, a waxing moon is a great way. Go downtown or on a public place where there's a lot of traffic and set up your telescope and say, hey, would you like to see craters on the moon? Boom, people step up. People who are interested in looking at craters at the moon or rings of Saturn or bands of Jupiter, the moons of Jupiter, those people are prime candidates. Hey, Scott, why don't you just come on in here, and you won't be able to hear though. Okay, so those people are prime candidates for, hey, I'm trying to get together people who are interested in astronomy. Would you be interested? Go print up, little 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper, print up little business cards and hand them a half-page flyer with details of what you're doing. Don't make it, verbiage intense. Make it look nice, and hand out little pamphlets to encourage people to get together. Advertise star parties, in public places. You'll be surprised how many people will show up, but you've got to find people, and they don't have to be experienced viewers. They just have to have an interest. And once you get enough people, you start meeting. That's where it becomes a challenge. Our club will do a constellation of the month. We try to have a guest speaker. We've had both in public and now with Zoom in public, in person. And now with Zoom, we've been having Zoom people, and really raises the caliber of people you can access. Because if you join other clubs or look at other clubs' websites, they have real cool people who do speeches and give their club members, and you contact them, and every time they're like, heck yeah, I'll be happy. Let's do it in May. And you set up the time and you Zoom in and you do that presentation. Hey, Scott, you could chat me if you want to, if you have a question that you want me to answer. Okay. Can't hear you. Nothing. You're still not there. So anyway, Scott's having technical difficulties right now. So, you know, the beauty of live broadcast. He said, "Can you hear me now?" Okay, so, oh, Scott, this is the 60th episode of FirstLight Chronicles. Is that correct? Okay, so we're not going to do anything today because that'd just be too easy. However, on the broadcast of December 22, which will be the 62nd episode, which is a weird number, but you'll see why I picked 62 in a minute. Our very popular 62-degree line of eyepieces is completely sold out, other than the 62-degree 14. So everybody who watches the live broadcast and comments, to do this, you're going to have a comment, even if it's just your name. You know, make a comment, hi, howdy, beautiful in Wichita, whatever. We're going to, at the end of the show, Scott's going to run a video. Then we're going to go through all the chats, write down the names in the order they came in on an Excel spreadsheet, then use a random number generator to generate line 16. And whoever's on line, I'm making up the number 16. If it comes out 16, it was pure coincidence on that line. That person is going to win the 62-degree 14-millimeter eyepiece. They will then, you know, can private chat us their name and shipping address, and we'll get that eyepiece shipped out to you. So a 62-degree 14, meant to look up how much that cost. Real quick, can do that. You know, I know a lot of prices, but I don't quote them because I don't want to be wrong. The 6214 is a $150 prize. So not a bad prize for the 62nd episode of something. So that's what we're going to do. So to go over that again, tell all your friends, or don't tell all your friends, to increase your chances of winning a 62-degree 14 eyepiece. The December 22nd, make sure that's right again. Yep, December 22nd, Wednesday before Christmas. We will, everybody that's on the broadcast, you have to be present at the end to win. If we say, Mike Wiesner, we will, and Mike Wiesner doesn't reply within about a minute, then we're going to go on and random number generate another winner. So you got to be here, got to comment throughout, but whenever you start, you got to stay in there. So Scott's just asking, people are asking, when will the 2X focal extender come in? I can do a little research here, and I would normally have Scott fill time right now. However, Scott is not able to fill time because he's been rendered mute by the evil gods of the live broadcasting world. So I'm opening a spreadsheet here. We'll see what we can figure out. It's FE02-020. So much easier than when it used to be on paper to search things up. Of course, it all has to run too. There we go, right there. They're on a container, or will be in a container that is scheduled to leave in very early January. So in the old days, pre-COVID, I would tell you that in 35 days from the day it leaves, so if it left on January the 1st, 35 days later, it would be in Springdale, Arkansas. Post-COVID, who knows? I'm going to say probably March at this point, the way things are going right now. The Christmas holiday glut may end pretty quick, and therefore we're able to, things might speed up after Christmas. So I'm going to say middle of March at this point. And we have a decent number coming in. That works, Scott. So the special effects work, but Scott's toast. He's not anything. So anyway, that's the answer. Anybody else want to know what we have coming in with some time frames? Go ahead and ask real quick, and Scott can chat that to me. I've got the spreadsheet open, so I might as well just keep it open and see if I can wait a minute. That's not the same. I was wrong. I said maybe here quicker than that. Let me check one thing. But this is weird talking all the time by myself. It's daunting. I'm so used to relying on Scott to fill time and other people to help that it's a challenge. So anyway, we'll let me look this up real quick. Got the container number. It is this. Nope, nothing, Scott. So the estimated time of arrival as of last Friday was December 31st. So middle of January, because we got to run them through quality control. No Scott blowing on it won't help. If whacking on it won't help. So looks like the FE 0202 will be here in the middle of January. So that's a lot of stuff is starting to move. We're starting to see more and more stuff, but moving a little bit quicker. We're using lots of different ports. That's helping a little bit. Scott, I'd tell you to restart your computer, but if you do that, the broadcast goes kaput. So that's the end of that. So back to club a little bit. I feel a responsibility to try and help people with new telescopes, because think back to the day when you first used your first telescope. Unless you had somebody who knew what they were doing, it was a challenge. And it's a challenge more than ever now because of light pollution. So I need to get a cap or a hat that's my light pollution hat with bright lights and stuff on it to put on my light pollution cap when I start talking about this stuff. But the light pollution makes it harder to see that faint fuzzy stuff. And so as we see, the hobby is leaning much, much more towards astrophotography. And so everybody has a smartphone and wants to take a picture. And it's difficult to take a picture of the moon. It can be easier to take a picture of the moon, but Jupiter and Saturn become harder. But one thing you can do is get a good smartphone holder, attach it to your telescope, and let them put their smartphone on it so they can then take pictures and share them with all their friends, because the world is one big share. I'll share pictures of spectacular meals type of thing, and pretty sunsets. And I was in Oklahoma a couple of weeks ago. I think I talked about it, went out on the tall grass prairie, and it was just spectacular. I need to post some pictures I took of I showed Scott a couple of them, very abstract art, reflections in buildings, and just some really, really cool stuff. I need to have it posted those. But everybody shares, right? And so they want to share what they're seeing. They want to share Saturn. They want to share the moon. And if most of us have tried to do this, hold my flashlight, the works as eyepiece, trying to hold the camera up to the eyepiece and take a picture of the moon is a challenge. Doing that, getting a good picture of Jupiter or Saturn is even more of a challenge. And we've had Mike Wiesner on doing before smartphone photography and how to do it. We probably ought to do another episode of that, Scott, at some point, because it is a point of interest. So we can do that. We need a meet and greet out there, Kent. Norm, are you talking about at the Tallgrass Prairie? I've been exploring that. The problem is twofold. I don't know what Scott's laughing about. The problem is twofold. One is snaddle rakes, otherwise known as rattlesnakes, and two is buffalo. And the third one is parking. He says, "Hi, Jim." All right. So the third one is the parking issue. So the darkest spots in the park have turnouts that hold 3 or 4 cars. There's one area on the south side of the park that's Bortle 3-ish to 2-ish. The north side of the park is going to be Bortle 2. but there's no place to park and get off, and you can't get off road. They want you to stay on the road. So that's out. They don't allow camping at the park. However, if we were to accidentally spend the night and brought our RVs with us, and we weren't camping, we were just spending the night, they wouldn't say a word. So we're going to do something. There's going to be something, and it may be a fairly spur of the moment sort of thing. So those people who live a long ways away, 10 days out, we get a forecast and say, okay, we're going to go over and do it. We may try and do something more formal in the spring and do it. I'm going to go over this winter sometime and do that as well. So anyway, Christopher Hughes, how do we private chat on the 22nd if we win? I imagine some others might be technically challenged on how to do that. Well, then you can do a shout out. That's a good question. You can do a shout out, say, Yahoo, I win. There you are,
You
Scott.
guys can hear me now, right?
Yes. What'd you do?
I don't know.
He doesn't know.
But
Well,
it's an echo. It sounds like an echo to me.
so you're fine, but yeah, I heard you tap it and it came through. So the easiest way to do it, Chris, is we'll just say reply back with Yahoo or Yippee or great, I won, or whatever. Some ways we know you're there. And then you can email us your particulars. That'll probably be the easiest, because just send it to exploralliance@explorescientific.com. And if you're a regular, like I have, Chris, I suspect I have your address, and I know I have Norm Hughes's address. So if you're a regular and you know that we've had a parts request or you bought something from us before, we can find it. Or if you're an Explore Alliance member, and that's the other catch. To win one, you got to be an Explore Alliance member. So if you win one, then you become we will make you an Explore Alliance member, so we don't leave you just swinging in the wind. And if you want to be an Explore Alliance member, it's real simple to do. To be a free one, you can go online or join, or you can send an email to explorealliance@explorescientific.com. Scott, you want to put that in the chat? Are you still there,
Sure.
Scott?
Sure.
Yep, he's still there. Okay, so outreach is something I really love to do.
No, but Ken, we were talking about the how to form your own group,
Okay,
how to sustain that group. Now, outreach is a big part of this,
but outreach is a big part, especially for my club. The other way to sustain it is we have a group they call themselves the Old Timers, and it's not because they're old. It's just the people that started it were the old timers in the club. I mean, they might be in their 40s now, but they were 20 when they started. They just called the old timers because they've been around the club for a long time. They'll get together and meet, sometimes once a week if it's really nice and something's going on, a couple of times a week. They're spur of the moment, and that's great. We've gotten away from trying to schedule club star parties for lack of just a decent place to do it. I may try and make that a priority again, and one thing I did for the incoming club president is I scheduled all of our state park and national monument star parties. We have Pea Ridge National Military Park here. I've scheduled those star parties for 2022 and 23 already. So those are already scheduled. Makes it that my next president's job a lot easier. I might try and schedule some club stars parties somewhere as well, just so we can get together. I can tell you this, that clouds are our enemy, as we all know. There was one stretch back, I don't know, 12, 15 years ago, that we scheduled a star party a month, and we went, I think it was either 15 or 16 months before we finally had a clear night. We've got a Messier marathon. Sir?
You said it was 15 months?
Yes.
Wow.
More than a year before we had a club membership star party. It was always cloudy. we did pull off a few years ago a Messier marathon at Hobbs State Park. We were staying all night, and about 1:30 the clouds rolled in and put a fork in our baked potato. I'd gotten up to like 61 or 68 or something like that. I was really cruising. I was going to get probably 90, 95 that night. Trees were going to be a problem for us because we're in a forest. It's a state park full of trees. So our horizons weren't good, but I was going to get a pretty good number that night. But holding it together and sustaining it, it takes work. It takes somebody, division of labor, somebody who will send announcements to the newspaper or the community bulletin board or the public radio station or the local radio station, and post things on Facebook and post things on, Twitter. And it's building that engagement and information. And I can tell you, there's a lot of people who are interested. We have a page, and it's not been real active. Ozark Stargazers with over 1,000 members. And there is an interest in it. And every once in a while, there's some pretty lively discussions happen on that page. But transforming that into club meeting, showing up at a meeting month after month. A lot of people don't have time. I think, and some of y'all can weigh in the chat. I know that I most assuredly enjoyed slowing down, during COVID and not having, grandkids baseball games and, everything going on. It was really nice to slow down. And, the Zoom meetings kept things going and kept us in touch. But it takes management. It takes somebody who's really engaged and keeps pushing the ball along, because it's real easy for that ball to get off in the gutter. It's real easy. Scott, I think you're dead again. Yep, you're dead again. It's really easy. There you go. It's really easy for that ball to get off in the gutter. It's really easy to lose steam. And it takes a core group of 4 or 5 people who have a long-term commitment into seeing this thing through and keeping it going. The bigger, I've never been to a gigantic astronomy club meeting, but, I know there's clubs with 50, 75, 100, 150 members.
100,
600, 700. I suspect that there's 5 or 6 people who keep all the balls in the air. It's always, it doesn't matter how big you get. Okay, you may be 700 members and have 10 people keeping the balls in the air, but typically it's a core group of people who do it for their love of whatever it is. And in this case, it's astronomy. And they just keep pushing along. They love doing it. I really like being around people. It brings me great joy to have somebody lean over an eyepiece and see maybe a low power view of Saturn, and it's real nice and sharp, and they see that, and it brings tears to their eyes.
Yeah, that part's cool.
Yeah,
Mike Overacker says, in our club, it takes a core group of 1 people, me.
That's a lot of. We have 4 or 5 people. Paul and Kathy are the people that keep the balls out of the gutter, or at least get the balls back out of the gutter when they get down in there. It's Paul and Kathy. And without Paul and Kathy, the club wouldn't exist. They created it, and they moved away, and it sustained itself. And
what kept it going though, Ken, if they were gone?
2 or 3 people.
2 or 3 people.
2 or 3 people scheduling meetings, showing up. I mean, Rick, we've had Catherine Auld was president for a couple of years. I was president for, it may have been a 4-year stretch. I don't remember. At least 2-year stretch and maybe a 4-year stretch. And I think Catherine took over for me, maybe, or I took over for her. Rick Marshall has really for 4 or 5 years really kept stuff up. Ray
Yep.
Fletcher, his wife Susie is the one reason a lot of people come to the club, because that lady likes to bake cakes, and she'll bring a cake to a club meeting. And if you like cake, that lady can cook cake. Now, I've prohibited her from presidential executive order to stop making cakes with coconut in it.
You don't like coconut?
It's not that I don't like coconut. It's that if I was stranded on a South Pacific island and the
Yeah.
only thing there to eat was coconut,
Right.
Scott, I would eat it. I would eat
Sure.
it. But the entire time I was there, until the time I was rescued, I would be wishing I was dead because I was having to eat coconut to stay alive. Okay. That's how much I dislike coconut, and I
So
don't,
part of sustaining a club is if you have food there, you got to have food that people like.
well, that helps. Yeah.
Yeah.
And look, I understand, people are good. People who like coconut cakes, Susie can make a coconut cake after I'm not president, and I won't try and pull out the presidential order citation on her. You can't, you're prohibited, but she has not made a coconut cake in a while. So Susie can really hit home runs in the kitchen with cakes, and cakes especially. She does pies, but cakes are her specialty. But finding themes. Kathy does a great job. Table decorations, finding a theme. Doing a Valentine's theme for this month and a St. Patty's Day theme, and then she'll find astronomical themes, and
You guys, you're this group of people, and I suspect that most of the core people in any astronomy club or any club, in existence, these people like to make friends. They like to meet new people. They like to introduce people to other people, and I think that, certainly Kathy and Paul are like that,
Yeah, we all like people. I mean, we like to be around people, and we have some club members who I don't want to say are antisocial, because they're not, but outreach is not their wheelhouse, and that's fine. We have some club members who are club members because their kids like astronomy and wanted to do things their kids are interested in, started coming to the astronomy club, and turns out they learn astronomy, because their kids are, and that brings up, if you want to foster a kid's love of astronomy, don't make it work. It's like when I was training retrievers, Labrador retrievers, my own dogs personally, I never did it for anybody else. I always took the attitude of stop before the dog is worn out. Don't wait till the dog won't retrieve to stop. Stop while the retriever still wants to retrieve some more. And I sort of take that approach with kids as well. Give them as much as they can take, but stop before they're worn out or bored with it, so they remember that they were happy and having fun when they stopped doing it, as opposed to getting bored and going kicking rocks or whatever. So,
Right.
Don't wear kids out and try and make them do what you want to do. Short little bites, get them to bed. They get cold. Okay, get them inside, come back out, and then do your thing. But kids love your time. Kids love when their parents give them one-on-one time, and
Sure.
no computer, no phone, them just out looking at the stars. Like last night, two nights ago, I guess, my 6-year-old grandson had to call me up to tell me, boy, there's something really bright up there by the moon. What is it? And I said, well, that's the planet Venus. Okay. And I said, and if you look to the south, see that big bright thing up there high? That's Jupiter. And so, he was excited to call and tell me about that stuff. And he's enjoyed looking at the moon. He's getting into it. 6 years old is really when they can start understanding things and have the ability to know what's going on. And
Right.
trying to get kids in the club, like we're going to have, I think there's either going to be, Kathy told me there's either 6 or 9 kids going to be there. And so with the impetus of if those kids are going to keep coming, we have to do kid-friendly things, right? You can't expect a kid, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8-year-old,
Oh, yeah.
to sit there for an hour and a half while a
You
bunch
got
of
to make
old
it fun.
people
Not only
talk about
for
stuff.
a 5-year-old kid, but for a
Right.
50-year-old kid.
And that's where this program called Sky Puppies comes in. Kathy has the Sky Puppies program, and they're going to be going off into another room with the kids and taking them off to do Sky Puppy for a little while. And that's going to be a good. And she does things like use flour and something else to make craters. Drop a ball in
nutmeg.
Watch out.
Nutmeg over
nutmeg, yeah.
The white powder.
Yeah, and then it goes pump, and you can see how it makes a crater. Stuff like that. She's got some really cool stuff she does, and that's her niche. She was a teacher, and she
did a dry ice comet here one time too.
Yeah, dry ice comets. Yeah, there's just so many things that you can do, and the stuff that Daniel Barth has been talking about. Lots of things he's done are fun little things that kids can do, and his book is full of interesting ideas and, frankly, class topics. Download his book, and there's certainly could be a class topic in there. Like I remember the one is, how do you prove the moon is round?
Right.
Well, he has a very good example of how unequivocally you can prove through the power of observation that the moon is a ball. It is a sphere. It's not something flat. Now, I've tried it on a couple of people, and they said, well, that's just because that's the angle. It's not really, it's flat, but that crater looks like it's going around the ball, because I'm like going, oh.
And let me just say this. If they think that the moon is flat, I mean, in this day and age, they think the earth is flat and the moon is flat, nothing you can say will change their mind.
That's true.
Nothing.
Although it is fun to try. I mean, it really can get fun to watch them try and tie their logic into a pretzel. Huh?
Get them to prove it's flat. That's got to be harder.
That's what I'm saying. I'd love to ask them questions that cause them to tie themselves up in a pretzel.
Other than the claim, okay, prove it.
Yeah, prove it. I can show you, see that crater on its side. Now look at the crater. The only way that can happen is if it's round, if it's a sphere. So anyway, Dr. Barth's book is a great source for topics like that.
Yeah.
But back to the subject. How do you keep the club going?
How do you keep it going?
Sheer willpower. An absolute dedication.
How old is the Sugar Creek Club now?
20 years old.
20 years. Okay,
20
so that
years
means
old.
20 years of newsletters, 20 years of events, 20 years of all kinds of meetings.
At least 10 people have been club president.
Yeah.
10 years of meeting once a month, 10 years of securing locations when one location becomes unavailable. We've met in churches, we've met in an insurance office, we've met in a restaurant. We're back in a church that we can have access to, and has decent, there's a couple of street lights, and we can do some decent astronomy, but it's more 4-ish, 5-ish. So
astronomy, and you're keeping it active, and you guys do educational things. You have incredible speakers. I've been to several of your events, and it's very friendly. Non-judgmental, I guess. That you would also like. That's also part of it. One of the things I see as a big turnoff in some clubs is when you have a group of highly knowledgeable, very technical kind of people that kind of pride themselves on being highly knowledgeable and very technical.
And then you say we're going to have.
And as a newbie, you just kind of feel really weird around those people.
We're going to have a Constellation of the Month club on M40 on Orion, and they go, "Oh, I know everything about Orion," and it's we see that effect also, Scott, in the company here, where people who are accomplished observers or astrophotographers tell people who are starting out in astrophotography that they need exactly the same rig they have now. And, because that's what works for them.
That's what
They
worked for them.
forget what they started out with and how they worked up to their car. I equate it to so you want to race in the NASCAR, series of races. You cannot buy a NASCAR today and go race in the first NASCAR race that's up. You can't do it. It's impossible. You have to work your way up. You have to start driving less powerful cars and,
Go-kart,
carts
I
or
think.
go-karts or, midgets or IMCA modified or whatever. You work your way up. Now, guys like Jeff Gordon at 22 are racing in NASCAR. There are people who can get to NASCAR in a very short few years. And there's other people it takes a long time to do. Some people, Wade Prudy is an exact example, bought an Exos 100 and immediately did 100 hours on something and put together a spectacular photo.
Image.
Yeah. Other people struggle for years and years and years and never accomplish anything like that. And that's okay, because astronomy, we can make competitions like who by memory can find, and without a go-to, can find the most M objects in a night or in an hour or whatever. You can make astronomy a competition, but it's not a competition. It's a passion. It's an enjoyment. And, don't make it a competition. Make it a pure fun thing. And you're gonna progress at your level, at your speed. Some people can learn to knit. I have tried to knit multiple times. I don't even want to see what I would actually get if I tried to knit a sweater. It would look odd. Just a wee
It would be
bit
some
odd.
sort of fitting,
But some people can sit there and go and have a sweater in an hour. And it's like, how'd you do that?
That's
Same
true.
thing.
So anything that's got a long learning curve, can be daunting. Some people find it to be, they just have a knack for it and they can do it.
Mhm.
Great. But
It's something you
so-
can't throw
but
money
this-
at.
But the sustaining part of it, when I first started up Explore Scientific, the UNESCO invited us to be a partner in their outer space. What was it called? It was called the UNESCO Division for Outer Space Affairs or something like that. But it was all about education to underprivileged countries, like third world countries, to create a sustainable science learning environment. Okay, and they had realized that astronomy was a gateway science. Anybody could do it. As long as you can get them to the eyepiece, they could visually do it. Given some, other techniques, visually impaired people could do it. Physically impaired people could do it. There's all kinds of ways that people can engage with astronomy. And and in third world countries, they believe that more science builds greater citizenry in their country. So you have, 5 and 6 years old, 7-year-olds exposed to science, and they may live in a home with a dirt floor, but like one of the places we went to is Uruguay. And the minister of education and the president of that country made sure that every student had a laptop and internet in their home. And literally, the homes, a lot of the homes were dirt floor homes, okay? But they're trying to build this next generation of people that understand STEM and science and become the technicians and the doctors and all of that that's going to help their country,
Stop and look around right now. This pen, we have this because of science. This smartphone, we have it because of science.
This show,
we have it because of science. That's where I was going, Scott. Exactly.
yeah,
Astronomy was the foundational science. you know, before we had agriculture, we had astronomy, and the ancients understood the rhythms of the heavens. They may not have known, it was a planet, but they knew it wasn't a star because they kept seeing it over and over again. They understood the rhythm of the seasons, the movement of the sun at sunrise from the in the northern hemisphere, the winter solstice to the summer solstice, back to the equinox. They understood those things, and it caused calendars and math to all grow out. Calendars are direct relationship and outgrowth of watching the sunrise and monitoring the seasons. All these things are intertwined back to science, engineering, the desire to be able to mark where the sun rises. It all goes back to astronomy is the foundational science,
That's
in my opinion.
And so they understood that part of it. But what UNESCO was interested in is, look, okay, it's easy to convey how important science is to a community, okay? But sustaining it is a much different thing. There are countless science centers and observatories and donated telescopes and stuff like that that are just sitting there collecting dust. The intention was good. It started off, people are using them, things started to happen, but it wasn't sustained. It didn't get sustained. And why not, Kent? Because they didn't have the 1 or the 5 people that it took to keep pushing it.
To keep the balls in the air.
That's right. And so UNESCO made sure by going to the upper levels of the highest levels of government in those countries, that those government officials were behind it.
Because they understand fostering science literacy makes society better. They also
understand that sustaining it is not easy.
And sustaining it's not easy. Any club will tell you that, there's a few clubs out there that, like the Bella Vista is a recreation retirement community that's morphed into a bedroom community with lots of young families. But at one point in Bella Vista, the average age, I think, was 66 or something like that. The average age is in the high 30s, low 40s now. But the Fly Tires Club, there used to be like the Nebraska Club. People would buy a retirement home and move there. The Nebraska Club had 1,000 members. The Michigan Minnesota Club had like 2,000 members. They'd do a fish boil. And I mean, it was like astounding how many people would show up to these things. But those clubs have died off over the years because the club ideas of clubs have changed, and the people that kept those going changed. The one club in Bella Vista that continues to thrive is the Fly Tires, the fishing club. And, they still have a pretty good membership, and they have lots of people show up at their meetings. It helps because there's still a lot of retired people, and there's Seven Lakes people fish up there. So that helps. But it takes a long-term committed effort, and you have to tell yourself, I am going to do this.
Right.
When I got on the Bentonville Youth Baseball Board, I didn't plan to be on it for 25 years, 24 years, but I was, because there was a group of us that said, we want the program to get better. We want this goal and this goal and this goal and this goal to be met. How do we do it? How do we get better baseball? How do we get more kids playing baseball? Same with the club. How do we do it? How do we get more kids playing astronomy and playing with circuit boards? And it takes a sustained effort, whether it's a national scale or a city, county, regional scale. It takes a core group of people, and you find that core group of people, and you get them to go all in. They take their whole pile of chips and push it on the table, and you get the commitment. Okay, we're going to do this.
Yep.
With the understanding this is going to be hard, and you go do it because it's worthwhile. it is hard. It can be a challenge sometimes. It can be a scheduling with your family stuff, but you commit to doing it because it's worthwhile, because
Right.
it brings people into something you love. And kids and people love to look at the stars. They're in love with it.
Yes.
I told the story when we were driving back from Pawhuska, Oklahoma, back to the hotel in Bartlesville. There was a car on the side of the road, and I'm one of those guys who views stopping to help somebody with a flat tire or something as paying it forward, because I want me to stop and help my daughters or my grandkids, right? I don't want somebody else. I want somebody who's sane, moral, sober person to stop and help whoever it is. So I pulled back up, and he said, "Hey, I'm just stopped looking at the stars." He says, "I'm from the city and I can see the Milky Way." And he's standing on the side of the road with his headlights on, and he could still see the Milky Way. And he was just in love with it. I said, "Yeah, go back to that road and drive 3 miles west of here, and it'll blow your socks off." I don't know if he did or not. I hope he did. But he was just happy to see the Milky Way. And how many people don't stop? How many people don't ever think, "Man, I'm going to pull over and see that," because they don't know what's up there. Show them what's up there. All right. Scott, any more comments?
Yes, actually quite a few here. People agreeing with us that, that certainly science is critical for the survival of the human species. Um, and Harold Locke comments, he says, "I can't believe the confused and wrong thinking minds that are out and about." There are still people that, they don't get it that we live on a tiny planet flying through space. They don't get that part, so,
Scott,
and that we need science to give us our edge. So
I think there are some people, celebrities specifically, who foster this. And I'm not going to name who they are, but I think there's some celebrities who say that they believe it's a flat earth to keep them relevant, to keep their brand alive, to keep people talking about me, whatever my name is. I'm going to do this just to get people talking, to get my name back out there, because look, any publicity is better than no publicity, right? And so they'll do whatever they can to try and foster numbers. But then there are people out there who didn't pay attention in science, or didn't understand, or had a terrible teacher. And well, gee, many Christmas, if that celebrity believes it, then I'm going to drink that Kool-Aid too. And I think a lot of it comes from that, or people who are just wanting to have some kind of relevancy and comment on Facebook or Twitter or whatever. It's basically trolls, and they say it to try and attract attention and get people to react. Now,
sure.
Jim Norwood says they'll try to build a steam-powered rocket to go up and take a look for themselves. Well, we know how that turned out. God rest that guy's soul. And I don't want to make a joke out of it, but you know what? I think NASA should find the preeminent flat earther and fly them to the ISS for 5 days. Give them a tourist visa to the ISS. If I was Steve Bezos or Elon Musk, I would find that person and I would pay them to pay their way to go to the International Space Station for a couple of days as a space tourist, and see if that changes their worldview or not. Or once again, it'd be expensive for me, but watch them try, and after being there, time themselves, like I said, up in a pretzel to explain why.
Looking at the Earth.
Yeah.
Sunrises and sunsets.
And sunsets, and you're clearly going around it. It's clearly a ball because you just went around it. I wish one of them would do
get
that.
into a rocket. I don't think
Sorry?
they would do it. I don't think they would get into the rocket, the flat earther. I don't think
Well,
they would.
I think that's part of the point, isn't it? So if you won't get in it to go investigate it, then you're a chicken. So I'll go to somebody else. Sooner or later, I'm going to find a flat earther that'll
You're gonna
climb
do it.
up inside of my rocket and go to the space station for 3 or 4 days.
Well, it's getting cheaper and cheaper all the time, so we'll see what happens.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, that's great. Any recommendations, Kent? I mean, you know,
Recommendations.
somebody says, "Hey, Kent, I want to start my own astronomy group. What do I got to do?"
You got to publicize look, what we do, unless you're doing solar astronomy, is at night. No one can see you, right? So if you're in your backyard, no one can see you doing it. They don't know you do it. So you're either going to have to go on social media, post in your newspaper, if you're still blessed to have a newspaper, get it on the radio, put it on whatever, and put yourself out there that you're doing this. I love astronomy. I want to find other people in my community who love astronomy too, so we can get together and do astronomy. Don't say you want to form a club to start off with. You just want to start doing astronomy. Get a couple of people and then say, hey, we love this. Let's form a club, right? You don't have to incorporate. You don't have to write bylaws. You say, we're going to be this loose confederation of folks. Let's start having star parties down in the square and look for more people. Publicize, publicize, publicize. Look for new and old channels. Publicize, publicize, and just grow it. Just push the ball. Keep the ball up on the lanes headed towards the goal of getting a club going. But do it. You're going to have to find committed people because it's going to be a small core of people to keep that thing going. And I've helped do it for 20 years. And it's a great joy. And one of the things I am extremely proud of that there is, you know, had I kept track of all the outreach we've done and all the people we brought into astronomy, me personally, I would have the master observer or the all of the outreach awards from the Astronomical League 30, 40, 50 times over, right? That's not been important to me. I've started keeping records for that so I can actually get that award. But put yourself out there. You've got to, nobody else is going to do it, right?
No,
If they were going to do it, they'd already done it.
they'd already done it.
In your community, I mean, Springfield, Missouri, 235,000 people does not have an astronomy club. I find that just mind blowing.
Something's wrong.
I don't know. We were talking about Wichita, Kansas, astronomy club.
I'm sure Wichita does.
Kansas Astronomical Observers is based in Wichita, Kansas.
There you go.
We schedule outreach for private and public groups, help these folks with their telescopes. Kansas Astronomical Observers. So Wichita, Kansas has one. Kansas City doesn't. But the first thing to do is just search. Astronomical League has a list of all the clubs that are members of the Astronomical League. There are clubs that aren't members of the Astronomical League. So, you know, you can do what you want to do. Now, our club charges, our dues are actually pretty expensive. It's $15 for an individual and $20 for a family unit, direct family unit per year. And with that, you get automatic membership in the Astronomical League, which means you get the Reflector magazine, which has all sorts of cool articles and stuff in it as well,
Right.
about all things astronomy. So for $20, it's a nominal fee. And you know, we do things like buy door prizes and you know, there's uses for that money. It's like, I think $10 goes to the club of a $20 membership. Most of the fee basically is to join the Astronomical League. So nobody's going to do it. No time like the president. No time like the present. You know, we're going into winter, cold nights, but boy, those cold nights are beautiful. Lots and lots of telescopes. Lots and
there's
lots.
Safety in numbers. You go out with a group of people, you know, if you trip and twist your ankle or break your whatever, you know, Someone's going to get you to the hospital,
Yeah.
if you have to go.
So lots
Doing
of
it by
telescopes.
yourself is not so much,
Yeah.
as enjoyable as with a group.
Lots of telescopes are being given as Christmas presents, and this year, put it out there. Get a couple of your friends. Say, hey, and put it out there on social media. Hey, for all you people who've got telescopes for Christmas and don't know how to use them, come join us at this location at this time, and do it in the daytime. Don't do it at night, because they're not comfortable with the night. Do it in the daytime at a church or a community building or whatever, and have people come and help them learn how to use their telescopes. And if they show up with a toy telescope, smile and say, man, I'm so glad you've got this telescope. Let me show you how to use it. Do not sit there and go, oh, you should have bought this. Right? Now, I sell telescopes. It's no secret. But
Sure.
the telescope you have is better than the telescope you don't have, no matter how good or bad it is. I'm sitting here today because of that little white thing, not the big white thing, but the little white thing over Scott's shoulder.
Oh yeah, this one.
Because without that little white thing, I'm not sure what my job would be today. I would not be working at Explore Scientific.
No, there wouldn't be an Explore Scientific.
Kmart telescope, I think I did the price increase. It was like $139 in today's dollars. It was pretty expensive.
$17.50 in 1960, or excuse me, 1970 is when it was.
Okay, we'll do this real quick. It's
Eduardo
amazing what
says he had a
information.
little red Tasco. Thank
How
God
much-
for toy telescopes.
How much was it, Scott?
$17.50.
$17.50 in January of 1914. Oh no, 70. Gosh, it's scrolling fast. 1970. Today, $128.05.
Yikes.
Yeah. So
I
look at,
remember my dad telling me it was expensive, so-
yeah, it was. It was, it was not, and look at the telescopes you can buy now from any telescope company. 200, $300 gets you something much more substantial, more than twice that telescope for twice the money. But if they show up with anything, smile and show them how to use it, because if they learn how to use it pretty quickly, they're going to be asking you advice about what's their next telescope going to be. And, what's their budget? Okay, well, for this, you can do that. You become a mentor. And I love that. I love helping people do this. So Scott, we've gone on for an hour. Heck, I talked for 35 or 40 minutes just by myself, waiting for you to fix your microphone. Did you ever figure out what happened, or was it just a gremlin?
I think it's something needs to be updated in my software.
Yeah, need a restart, basically.
Yeah.
All right, so tomorrow night on the wing, we're going to have a guest from the Maine Department of Natural Resources who is going to give a presentation on great blue heron and their tracking efforts. They had a great blue heron this year. I can't remember her name. It was a female bird. And let's just say she likes nonstop flights to the Caribbean for the winter. Yes. So flew a long.
Oh, so this gray blue heron has a name.
Has a name and has a tracker on it. Has a GPS tracker. And they know exactly her altitude and exactly how fast she flew.
Oh, cool.
And the exact route she took to get to the Bahamas, and then stayed there, and then went on down into the Caribbean where she hangs out for the winter, and will be returning next spring. And they do this with a number of birds. This is going to be very interesting to hear this talk. I'm looking forward to it. So that'll be 4:00 tomorrow. And then we have are we doing astrophotography still on Friday with Tyler?
Yep.
Do you know who his guest is going to be this week, Scott?
I don't.
Yeah, I know he's been talking about it. I know he's been working on it. So
Yeah, yeah.
that's coming up as well.
Right.
So
And then next Tuesday we have the 76th Global Star Party. And I promise to have my audio fixed by then.
yeah, well, as long as it's working now, I mean that's half the battle.
It's
But
kind of
boy,
working. Kind of
yeah,
working. It's very echoey on my side, so it's driving me crazy.
we don't hear any echo. You sound a little bit far away, but we're having no bad
Okay,
sound problems. So
that's good.
probably needs a restart. So
Yeah.
anyway, thanks everybody.
Okay.
Somebody go
Well,
do
that's
it.
it.
And look, when you go do it, we want to hear about it, right? I mean, don't just sail off. Say, hey, I went out and did this, and had 300 people show up for me to try to help them with their telescopes, whatever. We'd love to hear reports on your successes, and I'm a resource. If you want advice, Explore Alliance at explorescientific.com, and we'll hook up, and I'll give you all the great advice I can, and help you get started making an astronomy club to
Right.
give back. All right.
Yep. And don't discount the idea of just starting an informal group like Kent and those, Paul and Kathy did to start Sugar Creek Astronomical Society. I had a group in California called the Oceanside Photo and Telescope Astronomical Society. We had 600 members, no nonprofit status, we didn't even have the kind of meetings where you read the minutes and stuff like that. We would just go out and observe. That was the deal.
That's what we did. At times we had minutes, and we'd read the minutes and go through all that, and we'd have new people, and it says they're going,
Oh yeah,
So
they're
we-
like falling
we try-
asleep.
we try to we have board minutes. We have board
Yeah.
meetings quarterly sometimes, and minutes and stuff from there. But we don't take minutes at our public club meetings. Those are another outreach event, frankly. And
Right.
it's not about reading the minutes and following Robert's Rules of Order. It's about getting people together in a room and talking about the hobby we love and finding ways to do it. It's not Dr. Salmonex, who I had. They looked different, but they were the same person in college. Dr. Salmonex. It was brutal. For those of you who don't know, Salmonex is a sleep aid in the United States, and it was like ice using toothpicks to prop your eyelids open. It was brutal. Yeah.
All right.
All right.
Well, Ken, thanks a lot. Thanks for hanging in there while my technical difficulties were getting the best of me. And we will see you guys tomorrow with On the Wing. So thanks and take care.
Bye, everybody.